All right, today we're diving into a piece of tech that is rapidly weaving itself into our lives, and honestly, a lot of the time we don't even know what's happening. We're talking about facial recognition. On one hand, police forces say it's an absolutely vital tool, for catching criminals and keeping us all safe. But on the other, civil liberties groups are sounding the alarm, warning that it's a massive step towards a permanent surveillance state.
So what is it? A genuine tool for public safety or a high-tech engine of surveillance? Well, to figure that out, we've got to break it down. Let's start with the absolute basics.
Okay, first up, let's just get a solid handle on what we're actually talking about here. What even is facial recognition, and how does it work when it's out there in the real world? So, the European Data Protection Board has a really interesting definition. They call it a probabilistic technology. And believe me, that one word is so important. You have to think of it less like a perfect one-to-one fingerprint match and more like a weather forecast. It's not giving you a certainty, it's giving you a percentage chance that you've got the right person. It's an educated guess made by a computer, and that little distinction is absolutely crucial to everything we're going to talk about.
So how are police departments actually using this stuff? Well, it pretty much boils down to three main types. First, you've got live facial recognition. This is the one you see in movies, right? A camera scanning a crowd in real time, looking for a face from a watch list. Then there's the more detective-style work. That's called retrospective FRT. This is where you take an image from, say, a crime scene and run it against a database to see if you get any hits. And finally, you've got the on-the-spot check or operator-initiated, where an officer can literally pull out a phone, take a picture, and try to verify who someone is right then and there.
Okay, so that's how it works, but the much bigger and frankly more complicated question is, what if? Because deploying this tech on a massive scale raises some huge questions about our most fundamental rights, everything from privacy to basic equality.
And that brings us to something called the chilling effect. Just think about it for a second. As the civil liberties group Liberty points out, if you knew that going to a peaceful protest meant your face was being scanned, identified, and logged, would you still go? Would you feel as free to speak out and voice your opinion? See, the simple possibility of being watched can be enough to make people think twice about exercising their most basic democratic rights.
And then you have the massive problem of bias. A false positive. That's when the tech gets it wrong and flags an innocent person. And the data here, this is from the UK Home Office. It's just staggering. A system used by police was nearly 100 times more likely to falsely identify a black woman than a white woman. Just let that sink in for a moment. This isn't some minor technical glitch. This is a system that can put an innocent person into a life-altering nightmare, and it's doing it with a clear, undeniable, and deeply concerning bias.
And look, this is not just a theoretical problem they found in a lab. In just 1 year, London's Metropolitan Police discovered that an incredible 8 out of every 10 false alerts generated by its live facial recognition cameras were for people of color. The tech isn't just flawed, it is failing, and it's failing disproportionately, right out there on our streets.
And if you're wondering about the scope of all this, well, it's expanding. One investigation found that hundreds of children, some as young as 12 years old, are being put on these police watch lists. And that just raises so many profound questions. I mean, what kind of crime could a 12-year-old possibly commit to justify being monitored at this level? The Children's Commissioner for England said it herself. This raises serious questions about why this is needed. I mean, what does it do to a kid's development to grow up knowing your face is sitting in a police database?
Now, with stakes this high, it's really no surprise that governments around the world are scrambling to draw some legal lines in the sand. But as you're about to see, not everybody is reading from the same rulebook.
And right here, you can see three very different philosophies starting to clash. Over in one corner, you've got the European Union. They're taking this very cautious, risk-based approach, basically sorting AI into different buckets, from never okay to totally fine. Then you have the UK, which is pushing what they call a pro-growth model, which is much lighter on the rules. And in the US, the main focus is on innovation, with a big push for a single national standard to avoid a confusing mess of different state laws.
Let's actually zoom in on the EU for a minute, because its AI Act is the one that everybody is watching. It's the world's first comprehensive law of its kind, and it's basically setting the global precedent for how a democratic society might even begin to try and tame this incredibly powerful new technology.
And what's really crucial about the EU's approach is that it draws some very hard red lines. There are certain uses of AI that it just outright prohibits, calling them an unacceptable risk. So this isn't just about regulating, it's a real statement of values. Things like government-run social scoring, or scraping the entire internet and all our CCTV footage to build giant facial databases, or using AI to detect your emotions at work.
The EU has basically decided these things are simply too dangerous to allow in a free society.
But now, it's not a total ban on police using it. While live facial recognition in public places is generally off limits, the Act does carve out a few, very narrow exceptions for the absolute most extreme circumstances. We're talking about things like searching for a kidnapping victim, preventing an imminent terrorist attack, or tracking down a suspect for a truly serious crime. The message here is crystal clear. This is a tool of last resort, to be used only when it is absolutely necessary and proportionate to the threat.
So what do we got? We've got biased technology and this patchwork of different rules all over the world. So where do we go from here? I mean, what does a responsible path forward actually look like? And how do we build real accountability into this system from the very beginning?
Well, advocates and groups like Liberty argue that laws on their own are really just words on paper. The real test is enforcement. And for that to work, you need a powerful watchdog, an oversight body that is genuinely independent from police and from political pressure, that's transparent about what it's doing, and that actually has the teeth to make a real difference.
And when you look at what works in other areas around the world, effective oversight really boils down to 5 key things. 1, it needs a clear legal mandate, so it knows exactly what its job is. 2, it has to be truly independent, with no political meddling. 3, it needs the capacity, the money, the staff, and the tech experts to actually keep up. 4, and this is crucial, it needs the power to compel change, not just make polite suggestions. And finally, all of this has to be done transparently, out in the open, to build the public trust that this whole thing depends on.
Which, of course, brings us all the way back to that central question we started with. This technology is not going away. In fact, it's only going to get more powerful. The data sets will get bigger, the algorithms will get smarter. So the fundamental choice that we all face isn't really about the technology itself, but it's about us. It's about the kind of society we want to live in. What lines are we willing to draw between the promise of security and the preservation of our freedom?